welcome to the Science of Golf Performance YouTube show. I'm your co-host, Alex.
I'm a tri-co-host, Chris.
What would that make me? I'm like quad co-host. If you're the quad.
Co-square. I don't know. There's only three of us.
My name is Tyler.
Make sure to give us a subscribe and a like if you've been watching these videos. We do a lot of work on them.
We can work on our math and counting them because we clearly can't count past three.
But today we'll be talking about golfers' in-season lifting, their in-season training program, and what they should be doing to maximize their performance in season, when to take an off season, maybe when it's healthy to stop training, if it is healthy to stop training in general at all.
You definitely can't play golf while you lift. You can't do it at the same time.
So you would think, right? It's too much,
that's what I'm told by all the golfers.
Yeah, or at all.
Is it true?
Well, I think that you start with, everyone has a different season too. Like, we have our in-house adults who, the golf season goes from probably early March, sometimes the end of February.
Yeah, North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina. That's where we are. March to, how long would you say it goes sometimes?
It usually winds down like September, October.
Yeah, okay.
What about North Dakota? What's the golf season like up there?
You really don't start seeing green grass until about June.
Yeah.
And by about middle of September, the leaves are orange again. So
Yeah, so
it's going to vary based on geographically where people are, right?
Exactly. But I think that it's important to note that it is important to train a certain way smartly year-round. In a way that there's a time and a place for an off season, and we'll talk about that. But I think what we can look at is in the gym, volume versus intensity, and really what we're going to look at is how intensity and volume are kind of work inversely and how that works throughout a season. For me, when I'm in charge of programming for the adults here in-house, and what we do is I want to keep them touching the high intensity weights during an in-season so we can kind of maintain that's how you maintain power and force production, maintain a high force production by kind of.
So what does high intensity mean?
I was just going to say, explain intensity.
Yeah, so when we're thinking about intensity, we're thinking about the load. So basically the weights used, the amount of weight on the bar, basically. When you see that go up, you're going to see volume go down. And when I refer to volume, I'm thinking sets and reps.
So let's use my deadlift, my 100-pound max deadlift. So it's not too far off from where it could be. Yeah, where it really is. But let's say my max, or the person watching this video, let's say that they can deadlift 100 pounds. So what would that look like for them, like in season? What you're talking about?
So in season, like I said, I'm going to maintain kind of a high load and a lower volume. So lower sets and reps, but a higher weight. So if you have a 100-pound max deadlift, we're probably going to be working still in that 80 to 90% range for just a couple reps.
So I'll be using like 80 to 90 pounds.
Exactly. Okay. So 80 to 90 pounds for the 100-pound
pretty heavy
deadlifter.
To
exactly, to your max.
Deadlift,
yeah. And the research shows us that that's best in season for avoiding injury while maintaining high force output.
So basically, the more load, the heavier I lift for me, I don't need a lot of repetitions, so I can do, when you say sets of like.
Yeah, so we won't be working with much more than like 3 sets of 2, or sometimes even like 4.
So literally, as a golfer, I could do like 6 total reps, like a very heavy weight, and I'm decreasing my chance of injury, and I'm going to help keep my speed up.
Right, in a way.
My question is,
how can we help everyone understand that heavy weights make you really sore, though, don't they?
So that's the next thing. Definitely, that's a great point. So
that's very true.
So that's what people think, like heavy weights are going to make me sore. Not necessarily. It's actually the opposite. When you see that intensity go down and the volume go up, so now my reps are increasing, I'm working more, and might be a time for off-season training we'll get into a little bit, but when I'm working more those higher reps, but I'm working more maybe like for the 100-pound deadlifter, like 50 to 60 pounds, so really low intensities, but like high reps, maybe like 8 to 12 reps, that's where you see more damage done to the muscle, and that's when we start to experience more soreness.
So all the people that we talk to that say, I do light weights, lots of reps, sets of 10 to 15, they're actually putting themselves, what you're saying is more in the like sore and not really fast and strong category.
Yeah, that's when you're going to start to experience more of the DOMS or the delayed onset muscle soreness. And it's going to be harder to go swing a golf club in season and really maximize your performance when your body's trying to rebuild its muscles, because when you're working with that high volume, that's when your muscles are really like tearing down and like trying to rebuild themselves.
Right.
That makes sense.
So basically what you're saying is when you're in season in North Dakota, basically any month except for June, July, or August.
Pretty much.
In North Carolina, it's pretty much, your off season is much shorter. It's probably the inverse of North Dakota. But basically that off season, when you're in the off season, you kind of will do more repetitions and lighter weight. But when you're in the in season, we're actually doing heavier weight with a lot of less reps.
Yep, and that's how we're.
And you're telling me that's going to make me faster and less sore.
I'm not going to tell you it's making you faster, but I'm going to tell you that it's going to help you maintain that speed and performance during the in season without the soreness.
What do you see with the kids?
So I was just gonna say, Alex just brought up a good point. It might not make you faster, and I'll get with the kids, but it might not make you faster. However, what we have found is if you totally scrap the weights program while you're in season, we see someone lose up to 5 miles an hour on their club head speed by just doing nothing at all during in season. So this is kind of why I guess this is the scope or the whole idea behind what we're trying to explain is that in season training is a good idea, or it is a good decision. We're just trying to help you do it from a healthy perspective. With the kids, what was our question again?
Well, I think that's a really important point, though, right? That everybody says, "Oh, I want to pick up 5 miles an hour," and let's say 5 miles an hour is like 15 yards. So that's massive, right? Like you're totally screwing up people's distances. And so people are, I don't want to lift, I don't want to get too bulky, I don't want to screw up my game. Well, if you don't lift, we know from the science you're gonna get slower, 3 to 5%. So if you're swinging at 100 miles an hour, that's 5 miles an hour. So I think that's a massively huge point that if you stop training, you're actually going to screw yourself up by going backward. Your clubs are going to be screwed up in the wrong direction. But I think the original question was from a junior perspective. How do you handle like what Alex is talking about with the adults, like keeping them fresh? And because some of these kids travel like they're on tour.
Yeah, so from a junior perspective, and you bring up a really good point, they travel a lot. Almost every single weekend, they're on the road traveling. From that perspective, you think about what does their week look like. So if they're going to be traveling, say leaving on a Thursday, and they're going to be playing all weekend, Friday through Sunday, then maybe you take the front half of the week and you front load it just a little bit, and that's when you hit your higher intensity days, the heavier weights and the lower amount of volume. And then as you approach that competition, that event later in the week, that's when you start to back down a little bit. Workouts start taking maybe as short as 30 minutes, and the primary focus of those workouts be mobility and a little bit more so active recovery. So that way that athlete still has the appropriate amount of time to recover from that intensity and is still as prime as fresh as they can be for that tournament over the weekend.
I know as far as time goes, if most of them are leaving on like a Friday or Saturday, I know that most of the junior, their program is like Monday and Wednesdays. They just have like those 2 high days. So Monday and Wednesday will be their high intensity training. And then they still have, Thursday, Friday to recover before they have their tournament. It just gives them a couple days so that they're fresh when they go in.
Yeah, and I think it's huge, too, thinking about like juniors. If you haven't seen the junior episode on the junior program that you guys did, definitely check that out. But you talked a lot about like long term, right? And like we know, even with strength training, like we're still going to lose a little bit, but we can really like optimally minimize that. But the goal is like 12-month cycle. You're going to gain a lot in the off season. You'll lose a little bit in the in season. Minimize that as much as we can, so that net when we come back to the 12 months, we're up significant. So I think that's what we're trying to help you avoid watching this is. You work hard in the off season. How many times you hear this? Oh, it's not golf season, so I go hard in the gym. They come in, you start the off season like best you've ever been, and by the time you get to the end of the season, like September, October, August in North Dakota, all of a sudden you're back to like where you started, if not worse. Particularly in our adults, sometimes worse. So I think it's the goal of this is you're always looking at it year round, and as golf increases, the amount of volume in the gym decreases, but the intensity still stays high. Right. So as golf goes up, volume goes down, but as golf goes up, intensity in the gym goes up.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. And then, I mean, talk about our pros a little bit. That's kind of like the junior schedule, as they have tournaments like all the time and they're traveling. So with that, it could be a little bit different. How I work with our elite athletes is that we use more of like an RPE scale, because how they're exactly. So wait for that question.
Because the person watches
Yeah.
the video just
Exactly. So RPE is perceived exertion, the rate of perceived exertion. So instead of a percentage base, they're working more on how they feel, the perceived effort that they're giving in the gym every day. So I want them to go in and still maintain that 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 effort on their main lifts. So they're keeping their intensity high. So it should still be, I also explain it as you have like 1 or 2 left in the tank. So you're still, that's a high intensity RPE. And then they can kind of give for themselves, because everyone's going to be different with how they recover on the road. If they're having one of those weeks where they're just wiped out because of all the training, it's okay, let's bring it down to like a 7 this week. Bring all your training down to a 7. Let's recover as far as our nervous system goes, our body goes, and recover properly.
I think that's super applicable even to like just the person traveling for business. Like you travel a bunch for business and you're exhausted, and we see this with all the people we work with virtually. Like you guys adjust the program, intensity down a little bit, or I think there's a lot of parallels between traveling a lot for business and traveling a lot for golf in terms of how programs sometimes need to be adjusted. I don't know. So I think what was our takeaway? Please don't stop training.
I guess our takeaway is that, yes, please don't stop training. And like I mentioned earlier, like we're trying to provide you with a smart and a healthy resource as to how to go about your in-season training. And I guess Alex kind of basically summed it up, like decrease the amount of volume, so the amount of reps that you're doing, and increase the intensity or the amount of overload, and you should be able to maintain and be there in the long run, I guess, in the scheme of things towards the end of the season.
Yeah, look at your year as a whole, plan it out, have a goal, have a plan, and train smart throughout the entire year. Cool. All right. So good. Anything else we got? Cool. All right. Make sure to give us a like, subscribe if you enjoyed, and we'll see you at the next one.